Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is Pernell Bobby, your astrotherapist, teaching you how to channel messages and really be a facilitator of self-empowerment. This is my mission here. You may have noticed that it made a little bit of a switch from really having to focus on astrology-based information on how to improve your sex life. How to create an incredible sex life. I've recognized that, this is a part of what I do, but when I look at astrotherapy, like literally being a therapist in the space of astrology, that is for me also empowering for myself. And again, I want to be the facilitator, not the one to do the things for you, the facilitator of change. So thank you. This is my first video. This has become very clear for me. This is what I want to do. This therapy is going to go in many ways. Today you're here for the brown butterfly, and you want to know what the interpretation, the spiritual meaning of the brown butterfly is. I'm going to give you today the spiritual meaning of the brown butterfly, as well as an angel number 8. Okay, I'm not going to say life path 8 specifically. I'm going to say angel number 8. And the amount of times that you might see an 8 around the same times that you see this brown butterfly. All right, so let's give you some answers. Thank you for checking in. My name is Pernell Bobby. I ask you to like and subscribe this. If you're looking for an astrology reading with me, that is an option. This is how I go about my therapy and how I deliver to you a pathway, a facilitation to change, to empower yourself and no longer be a victim. My mission is for you to really master suffering, okay? Master your response to suffering, leveraging astrology. So definitely like and subscribe this and take a reading with me. You'll see links down below. Brown butterfly and the spiritual meaning. Ooh, this is a doozy. I should have refilled my water before I did this. So here we go. Transition, okay? You may have noticed, I think the most popular video at this day and age on my YouTube is the black butterfly. It was here in Medellin, Colombia, and it was pretty much death, okay? Like the death of just a complete brand new book, all right? That's not a black butterfly. That's a black butterfly. A brown butterfly, and the spiritual meaning of a brown butterfly is not a complete ending. It is a transition, okay? It is you in a book, switching the page, maybe even a full chapter, but the book is not done. So we have to break down the color brown to get into the brown butterfly and its spiritual meaning. So we're gonna break down brown. Brown is the color of earth. Brown is behind me. Brown is the placement. It's holding together nature, okay? Brown is Mother Gaia. Brown is the connection to the earth, all right? I highly recommend that you put your feet in the earth, okay? For the brown butterfly meaning, put your feet in the earth. This is a sign for me, not just to think of brown when you see the brown butterfly, but to get connected. Right here, this is salvia, okay? I don't know if you can even see this. This is, salvia is Spanish. White clary sage. Salvia is sage in Spanish. White clary sage in English. If you look right over here, you're gonna see some rosemary. And so I have a little rosemary garden right there. So the brown butterfly is a call to nature, okay? A call to listen to the birds. I just heard a bird come up and pull up on me. Call listen to the birds. A call listen to anything considered Mother Gaia, okay? There are downloads that are required for you in this transition. When you see a brown butterfly, this is the thing to recognize. You may get a sensation in your body, okay, because brown is associated with the earth signs in astrology, Taurus, Capricorn, and Virgo, okay? Brown is associated with the earth signs, and the earth signs, their intuition, their instinct works through sensations in the body, okay? They'll get a gut feeling and something will move. They'll get their nervous system to react, okay, because it's the body, all right? Taurus is the body, right? And Virgo is like taking care of the body. Capricorn is building a legacy within that body. So all those signs are very sensual. They're very much more hedonistic in the sense of human pleasures, okay, pleasures on human earth, right? Not necessarily a spiritual pleasure, like not the bliss you get from like meditation and you hit divinity through your breath work. That's more of a spiritual pleasure, but that impacts their body as well, does it not? It helps them to ground, it helps them to hone. So the brown butterfly to me is a call to hone, it's a call to ground. It's telling you, look, your spiritual practice need a little polishing. I have a video with my top 11 spiritual practices. I'll try to put that up there. And with that being said, I think I put 11 spiritual practices in there: Tai Chi, dragon breaths, embodiment flow and the movements. Yeah, so much more. So brown butterfly is a call to get back to your spiritual practices. Now, ironically, I was doing my spiritual practices right when I saw this brown butterfly, and I was also doing handstands by myself in the park, getting my feet in the dirt. Brown butterfly and the spiritual meaning. And don't worry, I'm going to get to that number 8, the angel number 8. I'm going to get there as well. Don't worry. And this brown butterfly was just standing there, and it was just still. And, I needed a second to like pause, as the butterfly also told me to do, to be still. And so I paused, and I was like, wow, this butterfly is incredibly still, like incredibly still. I'm like, I'm moving around it. It should have jumped by now. It should have ran away by now, but it wasn't threatened. And that let me know that it was there for me. So whenever you see a sign, a meaning, and you get a channeled message, and you may not know right away, I recommend you pause. This is generally always a time to think, what is on my mind right now? What are the sensations in my body right now? What am I feeling? Okay. What's the interpretation of this moment? You don't need to over analyze this. Okay. Just don't try to look for answers. Don't try to look for what's looking for you. Just recognize that it's looking for you. Don't try to look for what's looking for you. Just be still and know that it's looking for you. Okay, we just need to be still to receive the message. So this brown butterfly day, I saw this brown butterfly and actually had two orange stripes on both sides. All right, and I recently went through a breakup, and so when I saw the orange stripes, I knew the brown butterfly had something to do with transition, the brown, and relationships. Okay, and the dynamics of relationships. And earlier that day, I've been broken up for a couple weeks now, but I really felt a call to, and I had a friend tell me, like, look, over communicate, because we just went through a Mercury retrograde. I met this person in a retrograde. We ended our relationship in a retrograde. You can be sure, and I'm positive as well, that there's tremendous amounts of miscommunication. That's just obvious. However, it was what it was. Like, life is still staring me in the way it's going, so I'm not going to try to fight back and, push God and be like, give me what I want kind of thing, because it may not be what I want. And so this is a part of the transition for me. So that same morning, just to give a real life experience with this brown butterfly and this interpretation, that same morning, I sent an email, and honestly, it probably was the most beautifully written email I've ever written in my entire life. Excuse me. There's pictures involved. There was colors. I mean, at least like 7 to 8 different colors: bright pink, blue, neon. A lot of the colors of my brand that you even see here on this YouTube channel. And this is the spiritual meaning of the brown butterfly. I want to give you like a real life example. So stick with me. We're gonna get there. So this happened, and it was like, okay, transition in your relationship, because in the orange chakra, you can check one of my orange chakra videos as well. The orange chakra is, I had a meaning of the orange butterfly, like an actual orange butterfly. Okay, but this was just with an orange stripe. So you take the majority of the meaning of the brown butterfly being go ground, and recognize that a transition is near immediate. It's near immediate. It's near immediately gonna come to you. Then the orange stripe, representing relationships as a part of orange chakra, joy representing inner child, representing your sexual energy, all those things is saying, look, your sex life is going to transition. And from that stage, I sat there and I was like, you know what? I'm going to semen retain. I'm not going to have sex with anybody. I'm not going to sit there and run off after this relationship and just start banging the whole city just because. Okay, so that was a transition, because I had to recognize that there were times in my life where after a relationship, like, I would just sit there and look to distract myself through the hedonistic pleasure of sex. Orange chakra, hedonistic pleasure of sex. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit in my pain. I'm going to sit in, everything that I'm feeling. I'm going to sit in these brown earth like zodiac sensations in my body. Okay, I'm going to sit in these sensations in my body. And ironically, my 7th house, which is The house of significant relationships and where marriage kind of begins is in Taurus, an earth sign. Okay, so the brown butterfly in Taurus, and the spiritual meaning behind that being in the 7th house of relationships. Okay, significant one-on-one relationships and getting justice, getting balance, because this is all 7th house in astrology. Balancing out my relationships, getting justice in my relationships, getting justice in my expression, okay, and what my security look like. So this is brown, security, okay, foundation. Capricorn also represents structures, all right? Capricorn in the zodiac, structures, foundation, responsibility, all right? That's what it builds his legacy on top of, because it doesn't want to climb the mountain when it knows his foundation is crap. Whoo, I'm channeling right now, baby. Okay, brown butterfly and a spiritual message. So listen, this is what's going down. You're gonna have a moment to really look at yourself, look at your structures. And I had to look at myself, look at my structure, and recognize where was my resources displaced, out of balance, okay? And I had to recognize, as a part of this last relationship that I was in, it was like, look, you know, I had certain resources that were being used that weren't mine, all right? Let's say something like an Adobe program, all right, to create my YouTube thumbnails. I had to make that switch, and I was like, okay, look, for now, we're gonna have to go to Canva. All right, resources. Resources is also Taurus. This is grounded. You know, my home, I went through a transition in my home, and I'm getting ready to move out the city now. I'm leaving the country. So it's like, boom, another transition in my home. A resource, a grounded, earthly type thing that makes me feel safe and secure. All right, transitioning. You know, money. Hit a transition in my mindset. I hit a transition in my mindset. I began to stop playing small. I began to stop playing mediocre. I began to stop just letting things happen to me and deciding I'm going to go ahead and create the structure, the discipline that I need to be responsible in order to empower myself, in order to use astrology as a therapy for myself, in order to master and mitigate the suffering that I was experiencing with astrology as that tool and leveraging it. So definitely, if you're still here, like this, subscribe this. Definitely want to see you catch a reading with me and go through a therapy session with me. This is really critical to empower yourself in this day and age. Everybody's going through a tremendous spiritual awakening. These channel messages are coming in rapid, hot fire, off the press. And this is a part of what was transitioning for me as well, to feel safe and secure enough to speak about these things, no matter if people think I'm crazy, no matter if people think that, you know, he's a witch, he's a bruja, he's a magician, whatever it is. It's like to start honoring what I needed to do for myself. So brown butterfly in this meeting. Let's move into, I give you a little bit of the brown, give you a little bit about the orange. You gave me a little bit of that like button and subscribe. And I'm going to give you a little bit about the number 8. Okay. So the number 8, the angel number 8 is also what I was seeing all leading up to this brown butterfly. Okay. And the number 8 is a number of power. It's a number of dominance, domain, but it's also a number of transition. Okay. The life and death recycle. The life and death cycle, I should say. All right. Also represented a lot by Taurus, who's the opposite. I mean, represented by Scorpio, who is the opposite of Taurus. So right now we're in Scorpio season, depending on when you're watching this video. I'm a Scorpio rising. So it's like, look, those 8s coming up was telling me like my identity, my rising sign, and how I practice my offensive and defensive skills. We're all going to come out and transition. Okay. Oh man, I just forgot a whole nother part that I'm gonna get back to. I'm gonna stick with me, stay to the end, stick with me. So the number 8, angel number 8, is letting you know that abundance is on the way, but it's going to require a transition. Okay, so for me, part of that transition, part of that abundance was changing my mindset. It was changing my business model. It was changing my plan. It was transitioning. Okay, I want to say transition. It was transitioning my mindset. It was transitioning my business model. It was transitioning my location. It was transitioning the abundance that I got coming in. It was transitioning the type of clients I was attracting. It was transitioning the type of relationships I would and would not allow. It was transitioning the boundaries that I needed to set. It was transitioning me moving away from the glutton for pain that I have, especially as a Scorpio rising. Okay, it's like transitioning from me moving away from the gluttony for pain. Like I had to recognize, like, you know what, Pernell, why do you keep putting yourself in these unstable relationships with these elusive people? You know, so it's like that was a transition. I started recognizing I need more grounding. I need a grounded human. Okay, I need a grounded human in my relationship space, understanding that that butterfly had those orange stripes. Okay, I needed more balance in relationships. And I almost saw two stripes, one stripe on the right wing, one stripe on the left wing. And those two stripes, you know, I considered this last person my twin flame. So whether that's accurate or not, you know, we all go through our phases where doubt rises, and I'm just going to decide to detach and say, look, like, you know, God, put whatever you're going to put in my path and take away whatever you're going to take, and allow me to just surrender to that and send me the support in order to do so. So, you know, setting my mantras, you know, grounding yourself. And when you see a brown butterfly, your transition is going to come immediately. All right. The spiritual meaning of the brown butterfly is like immediate transition. All right. You're probably not even going to get the blink. And, you know, it was just crazy ironic, because I'm gonna get back to my other point, and then I'm gonna go back to the 8, because my mind's firing, and I'm just gonna speak about what's being told to me. You know, this same day that I wrote this beautiful email, essentially expressing where I felt like I would have liked to express. You know, I remember asking for time. I remember asking for space, because my emotions just have these moments where they're just too complicated. I'm not always able to articulate the depth of my feelings, of my emotions, of what I'm thinking, of what is going through a process. And it's like up front, a lot of that changes, and I can express pretty much immediately, but it takes me more time to actually ingest what I'm feeling in my body and understand what's happening. And by the time that happened, you know, the relationship was done, and a lot of it ended from the request of I need space, and it began to just unravel from there. And so it was what it was. But when I sent this letter, you know, even the response that I got back, it didn't come back until the next day, right? And as soon as I wrote that letter, I went out, I grounded, I saw the brown butterfly then, and I was like, what is the meaning of this? And it was like stillness, practices, do your due. And so right afterward, I find myself walking to a cafe for lunch, and boom, lo and behold, who do I see? I happen to see the ex, you know, right there with one of the guys that we all met together. And it was like, you know what? I could have over exaggerated what that moment would have been and what it was like, but there was another guy a couple days prior to that, same scenario, where both are drinking sangria. And then even last night, sitting there, one of my mans flying in from out of town, he gets a message with heart eyes talking about, hey, wow, you're in the city in Medellin. And it's just like, damn, Pernell, this is the glutton for pain. And I felt these sensations in my body rising, and they're feelings that I recognize and notice from so many times. The brown butterfly, grounding, okay, bodily sensations, Mother Gaia, the synchronicities, the signs telling you how and where and why you want to transition away from this glutton for pain, this mentality, to transition from this cycle of women that I would continuously attract in a different body. I would karmically attract the same personality, same type of woman, but in a different body. And these are the things that it's like, look, I started setting these boundaries, and thankfully I began with the grounding and my spiritual practices, waking the fuck back up and recognizing this is just not what I want. I don't want to feel insecure, especially around these type of scenarios. I don't want to feel that I need to prove something. In my past life, in this life, but in my earlier years of this life, these would be me fighting all of these guys without even blinking, because the sensation would be there. And I am in Aries, God of War, Aries Moon, Aries Sun, Aries fucking Mercury, and it's like, this is what I am. But the growth, the evolution of me as an Aries, the growth as I rise closer to being, and my rising sign being a Scorpio, as I rise, okay, and to being able to handle and transmute some of these painful moments into beautiful creations. This is what I get to do for you right here, right now, on this video, this brown butterfly and its personal meaning. And you know, it was just something very clear. It was like God telling me, like, Pernell, like, you know, you booked tickets, you're leaving the country, like, you did the right thing, because it was really scary to do. And I had to recognize these emotions rising in me of why was I scared. And it was like, I wasn't scared because of where I was going. I was scared because I was like, man, that means I'm really gonna let go. So when you see the life path number 8, the angel number 8, especially if you see 8, you see 8, you see 8, you know what I'm saying? Recognize that these 8s come in many ways. It can come on the timer on your phone. It can come on your computer screen. You may see a figure 8 just driving in the street. You know what I'm saying? You may see the infinity sign somewhere. You may see this come in many, many different ways. It could just be a design. You can't see this table, but there's a design on this table. So recognize that when you see these 8, it often means that something needs to be let go in order for the abundance to be gained. Okay, something needs to be let go for the abundance to be gained, because this 8 represents the power player, right? And the power player wants the cake and the ice cream too. And so this is one of the moments where I was able to see, like, wow, you know, you can recognize very clearly, I could recognize very clearly who wants the cake and the ice cream too. And the boundaries were set. So when you see the number 8, it often requires you to set boundaries. All right. So this is part of my transition. My transition with this brown butterfly and the spiritual meaning was, Pernell, set boundaries, bro. Okay. This is part of my transition. Set boundaries and watch who runs out of your life and watch how quickly it happens. Okay. Pernell, set boundaries. Watch who runs out of your life and watch how quickly it happens. And by doing so, you will be rewarded handsomely. Okay, the brown butterfly is a very auspicious signal, a very auspicious moment in your life. Okay, you can pretty much expect immediate abundance. That abundance is not always going to be money. Okay, because for me, the biggest thing was that abundance was an abundance of, you know, care and love for myself, to set the boundaries, to recognize that I deserve better, to recognize that I can't keep treating princesses like queens. This is part of what I needed to do in transition, because classically I've played that hero role and saved people, where meanwhile when people they stick around, they look at me as, let's say, the victim, if you will, or somebody that they need to nurture and care for, because they don't want to do that caring, nurture for themselves. On the opposite end, I got to take my personal responsibility and ground in the reality, okay, not my fantasy of, I would sit here and play Captain Save-A-Ho. And this is something that I got to recognize, and, you know, recognize that, like, you know, these women are often monkey branching, but that's not because they're doing something against me. It's because I am harming myself by allowing and by giving permission for people to walk up on my respect, walk up on my integrity in a way that I don't agree with. And so somewhere, I gotta recognize that I got this Cancer in Mars, and I gotta tame that bad boy. Okay, I gotta tell that bad boy, stop. Don't give people permission with your silence, okay, reluctantly, because this is what I was doing, and this is the transition. Giving people permission to walk on my integrity through silence, 2 on the screen, baby. That's what it is. Right when I said that, on silence. So this is really the brown butterfly. When you see this, recognize the leaves fall in the fall, right? In the fall time, leaves fall, and those leaves turn brown. They go from these bright green and reds and yellows, and they turn brown as they're falling. Okay, notice that those leaves are falling back to where? The earth, Mother Gaia, okay? Telling you to ground during this season of winter, during this season of cold, before the spring comes back. And I'm getting ready to go hibernate. I'm getting ready to go be still. I'm getting ready to go do the inner work at a deeper level. And I'm going to do so in the ways and for the reasons that I know is best. It's a time to start planning. It's a time to, when you see the brown butterfly, the spiritual meaning is get real methodical. Start planning what you're going to do. I've been creating now recently, I've just created my most recent mantra that I'm going to operate and make sure I stick to every morning. Okay, I just sat here and mapped out my gene keys and recognized, like, here's my life's work, here's my purpose. You know, I'm sitting there looking back through my astrology chart, and I'm writing out my ledger on, you know, how am I going to provide therapy for this next level, this next stage of my life? How am I going to, in this next stage of my life, and this moving away from this glutton for pain, am I going to master suffering, you know, my response to suffering by leveraging astrology? Definitely like and subscribe this. Take in a reading with me down below. If any of this is resonating with you, if you just want a numerology reading, we can do that based off of either the day or the week that you have. We're able to forecast for you, you know, 7 days, a week in advance, a month in advance, up to next year. So these forecasts are able to be done. I can do this for you. I find a lot of my people have a lot of value in this, and I'm here to give you these channel messages. So, you know, to finish this off, the brown butterfly and the spiritual meaning, especially if you've seen the 8, if you've seen the orange stripes, you know, recognize that the majority of this butterfly was brown, and it was 2 little thin orange stripes. So you'll combine the meanings of what the orange means, but don't let this fool you that if the majority of the butterfly is brown, 90% of that meaning should come from the fact that I'm going to transition. The orange was just the indication of what areas of my life are going to transition, and this is my hedonistic pleasures. This was how I would find security. Either I would create security for others and take unhealthy relationships as a part of the result, not living in my power, okay? Or I would also find security through, you know, getting into unhealthy relationships, knowing that my expenses would also be cut in half and I may have to spend less money, but that's not good enough for a reason. So that mindset right there also, once again, has to transition. And I had to recognize that where did those opportunities present itself prior, and I actually said no, because I recognized that certain people that I said no with to do that same scenario were people that were actually good in my life, and because I respected them and I respected myself, I didn't do it. So I got to check in with where the people that I say yes to, and why do I do so? Why is there a certain type of person that I'm like boom for, and another type that I avoid? And that type that I avoid is often the type that gives me that grounded stability and the love that I know I deserve and I know that I want, and that I need to start making very clear decisions to boom 2555 on screen. Very clear decisions to let go and allow myself to transition. Okay, the life number 8, the angel number 8, to let go, and recognize that the abundance is infinite, the love is infinite. Okay, if I keep living in integrity and I keep doing my best and I keep going up and showing out every day on stage, every day in my private life, the same way I do on stage, that you are going to sit there and really receive these channel messages. You know, so that's the key thing with the number 8. Like I said, it's represented by Scorpio, it's represented by death, okay? Death and rebirth, okay? It's represented by transitions. It takes all the dark, grimy stuff that you don't really want to look at, and it transforms it into light. This is the motto of the Scorpio. This is the angel number 8. So the more of those that you see, the better off you're going to be, all right? This is me checking in, Pernell Bobby, your astrotherapist, telling you to not only like and subscribe this, but recognize that you have the ability to master your response to how you view suffering, okay? And you're able to leverage astrology with me doing it as your astrotherapist. Coming up soon, I want to say I love you. Thank you for checking with this channel message and my interpretation, which is just an interpretation of the brown butterfly and its spiritual meaning. Hey, what's going on? So this is the brown butterfly and spiritual meaning. I would like to add this because this is really important. I recognize like it's important not to be selfish in this moment and recognize that this transition in your relationship does not mean that it's over for everybody. This is actually a beautiful and auspicious sign for you if you are in a relationship, okay? You don't have to be transitioning out of that relationship, but you may find yourself transitioning to, with this brown butterfly coming up, a new format in your current relationship, because this is something that to be honest, while I was in a space of like understanding what I was going through for myself in this previous relationship, I was also recognizing that, you know, at least from what I could see on the outside end, like this, things could have worked, you know, like it was a decision that I also had to make. Like I could have also chose to let that relationship transform. All the things that was miscommunicated and all the pride that I had that got in the way and created emotional walls and barriers, and maybe even the same thing vice versa, that could have been a transition, all right? That could have been part of the transition to make the relationship stronger, to bring it together, to co-create. So this isn't some guarantee like, oh, you know, if you see a brown butterfly, you're transitioning out of your relationship, you're transitioning and you're taking something different. So this is the brown butterfly and its meaning. This is Pernell Bobby, your astrotherapist, checking in. I'm gonna let you check in with everything else I'm saying prior, but I had to add this, and I'm actually gonna probably put this on the front end so that you don't believe that this is only gonna mean that you're gonna leave out, all right? Definitely check in with your astrotherapist, Pernell Bobby. I'm here to empower you, to help you master, okay, your response to suffering. You have a choice, and when you learn your astrology chart, you're able to do that. This is the interpretation of brown butterfly and its spiritual meaning, along with number 8 and the angel number.